Morning, everyone. Buddham gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Invite us to settle in. Take a few minutes to sit quietly. Feel our feet on the floor. Feel our bottom of the chair. Feel ourselves just settle into this moment. And taking a deep breath. Slowly and gently release that breath. All that has taken place this morning, let it just go. And bring yourself to this moment. Noticing this breath in and out. Touch in and let go. Allow yourself to be here, the gift of the Dharma presented to you today and always. It's a real gift to be here today with you all, to be the Sangha, and to just let that breath happen. Rosita and I were just walking up the steps, and I just stopped for a minute and had the sun and the blue sky and the breath, and it was wonderful. So if we don't do anything else today, let's just enjoy that. Just enjoy that. So we have been in and out and around Dhammachodron's Becoming Bodhisattva, or No Time to Lose. Both are really important names that we can keep with us, because that's really what our work is. That's really what our work is. So today Panivati is not able to be with us, and I get to be here. And what I wanted to do is, assuming that I shouldn't say that, thinking that we may move forward after today into the next chapter, I just one more time want to let us visit chapter 1 and 2. And then begin, maybe if we have time, into chapter 3. Chapter 1 was developing clear intention. And that we've been talking about is something we should be doing every day. Allowing ourselves to be intentional as we get up in the morning and as we go through our day, which is never as easy as we think it can be. The next chapter that we spent, I think this was 2 weeks ago, we didn't meet last week, was preparing the ground. And that is an ongoing, ever-present experience that we're working with. And then the third chapter that we started several weeks ago, transcending hesitation. But I want to just roll back one more time to developing clear intention. For a minute and just think about what that was like for you today, whether it happened or not, what your morning has been for you. What has intention been for you today? And consider how that has evolved, what that means for you, and how's that evolved throughout the morning. And as most of you know, I really continually encourage us, and myself in particular, to take that pause and to really reflect, which is some of what Shanti Deva's talked about a lot, is reflection. Certainly in my work, my professional life, it required that regularly throughout the day, and certainly at the end of the day. So reflecting back to your morning, how did intention show up for you today? Joe.
Well, today my intention, so I've just begun chapter 3 again. So I've broken the habit of reading this to keep up.
Great.
Thank goodness we keep going back, so I have time. And it's so interesting. I think I sort of ran through chapter 3 as if it wasn't even there. I must have, because there's just so much in it. This time going through, I get to make notes in there. Right, I'm actually taking the time to say that I want to remember, that I want to remember, and I'm marking these things off like you would in the book with highlights. And so today my intention, waking up, which I decided upon last night, reading chapter 3, was to practice rejoicing. The first of the 4 that chapter 3, it's mentioned. It starts with, and it's practicing, goodwill and really trying to experience joy for others. So, and they talk about something as simple as, you're walking down the street, look across the street, there are people, somebody's on their cell phone, somebody's doing something, you can practice it like that. And so, of course, I knew I was going to the gym in the morning, and that's the one place I see a lot of people all the time. And so I was able to do that this morning. And it's just a nice way, because again, otherwise for me, the alternative is the judging mind, right? So this is the antidote to the judging mind. That's looking out and occupying itself with nothing useful. Just noticing differences, just noticing, so it's something it's a new version of something that I've always looked forward to as an antidote to just sort of sitting there rummaging through the thoughts that arise when we see certain people, and how our mind sees differences or judges or all that sort of thing. So that was my intention this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to highlight something that you said. I'll paraphrase it. If not this, then what? If not this, then what? If I'm not intentional, if I don't have joy, then what? What's the alternative? And to keep asking ourselves that. If not this, then what? It's a pretty powerful thing to keep with us and to allow ourselves to be able to really question that. Well, that alternative is really not what I want or how I want to be. So if not that, then this. And if this, how can I be in this? How can I be in this? And that takes a lot of awareness and intention to be aware. It's a huge practice, especially when you're tired, especially when there's a lot going on. I'm speaking from my own place right now. As you all know, that we are closing the liquidation store, or have closed it now. And there's still bits and pieces. But I have found myself in the last 3 days getting lost in that samsaric world. And my Sangha has helped me kind of come back to that place. But it's easy to slide off sometimes. And it's been an awareness for me and a real growth period for me. And I think I said to Busita, did I really need a whole week of this to have to, get me back to this place and back to the book and back to my practice and back and back. It's Sharon Salzberg says, begin again, begin again. So thank you for that. Others, intention we're talking about. How did intention begin today with you or show up for you today?
Hi, Nancy here. I've been sick for over a week. And, rather than one of the things this morning when I woke up, I started medication yesterday. And I would just, instead of going, I just set the intention that I would just accept however I felt and know it's impermanent and just be happy. So it's working. So that's it.
Oh, no. Thank you. May you be well, Nancy.
Yeah, get well, Nancy.
Thank you for sharing that. Sometimes it's that. This is in the moment, not the next hour or 8 hours. It's right here, right now. Anyone else like to share before we move on? Okay, yes, okay.
Every morning I have 2 alarms. I have the one that says,
Can you just take off?
oh yeah,
Thank you.
you're asking me.
Jerry does it.
Every morning, I have 2 alarms. One that says, you're gonna get another alarm, you got 15 minutes left, and then that one goes off, and sometimes but my mind starts thinking right away about something that has to do with the present. And then every morning since we started this, I say those 2 verses about, just as the Buddhas, all the Buddhas embraced the awakened state of mind. I say those 3 times before I even get out of bed. I open the curtain so the sun is coming in and I can feel the sun. And I say those 3, and that really, it affirms me that this is what I'm here to do, and this is what my life is about. And everything else has to fit within that somehow. And then my husband and I usually talk for about a half an hour. He's very much on the same path, and we kind of just share impressions and feelings and where we're at. And then the rest of my morning is spent doing sumo. So I have a standing boundary with all the people that I work with that don't call me till after 1 o'clock. And so my morning is spent in my meditation room doing that. So, and that is every day. When I start that, it's like, oh, can I do that again today? Can I? And then I remember Panawati saying, don't have any expectations. Just do it and let whatever comes or whatever doesn't come to come. And so I'm usually surprised at what appears that I hadn't anticipated. But so my whole morning is spent there. And then I got in my car to come today, and there was a car coming down a road and a truck over there, and did I stop, be patient, think, and wait? No, I jumped in there and went across. That was my impatience. I'm a very aggressive driver.
With
And
the smallest car.
everybody was safe, but a racer would have said, good for you. And the public would have said, stupid.
Yeah.
And I thought right away, oops, I must stop doing that.
So you caught yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the whole key to this practice. And if not yourself saying that to yourself, then you've hopefully got someone that can help you and encourage you and remind you. But one of the things you mentioned is letting others know that you're not available till 1 o'clock. And I think that really puts it out there.
Mhm.
Whether it's that or saying I'm not going to drink anymore, and then people are aware of that, or I'm going to eat differently, or I'm going to exercise, or whatever it is that we're wanting to incline ourselves into. You know, being able to alert people in that level of support, I think is a really important piece.
Oh, I can also share with everybody that this week I gave up meat, fish, chicken, turkey, poultry. For the first time in my life.
Well, good for you.
I'm sampling veggie stuff.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm gonna just start us off. As I said, we're gonna just drop into, I learned the phrase touch and go. A while back, my brother was learning to fly, and one of the practice sessions they do is they come down and they touch and then they go. Come back around and touch in and go. And so using that this morning in my meditation really helped as I was still on the thrifty wheel of things to do and things to remember and getting phone calls, and still this morning, and touch and go was really helpful for me. So we're going to touch and go this morning, and I did take some notes. So we're in developing clear intention, and I wanted to, I have had this book and it's red and black and blue lines all over the place. But verse 4, so hard to find such ease and wealth, whereby to render meaningful this human birth. If now I fail to turn it to my profit, how could such a chance be mine again? And I just think it's such a reminder that this precious life, certainly we experience that with the practice with some, but this life is, however, brief. This is Pema. This life is, however, a brief and fading window of opportunity. None of us knows what will happen next. And what will happen next could be, I didn't expect that to come in. Could be joyful or very challenging. Saturday morning, I went into Thrifty thinking that this will be a piece of cake, and it was anything but that. And I had my own contribution to that with my expectations to it being a piece of cake, but none of us knows what will happen next, and so we must be prepared. We must, even stepping into situations and places and people, to really pause and pay attention to, let me be with whatever presents itself. From the Buddhist point of view, again, this is Pema, human birth is very precious. Shantideva assumes that we understand this preciousness with its relative ease and wealth. He urges us to contemplate our good situation and not to miss this chance to do something meaningful with our lives. And that meaningful could be, volunteer work, but it could be just greeting someone with a smile, or acknowledging, boy, that, it seems like you're having a hard moment right now. How could such a chance be mine again, and again, and again, and again? Verse 1 of this chapter says, "To those who go in bliss, the Dharma they have mastered, and to all their heirs, to all who merit veneration, I bow down. According to tradition, I shall now in brief describe the entrance to the Bodhisattva discipline." And that's really what we're doing here. We're stepping in and cultivating and cultivating and cultivating. Every day is an opportunity. We too, Pema says, can free ourselves from the hopes and fears of self-centeredness. The bliss of perceiving reality without these limitations is our birthright. Shantideva doesn't bow down to something outside of himself, but to his own capacity for enlightenment. He venerates those who have realized what remains possible for us all. And I just wanted to remind us of that possibility, allowing ourselves to step into that each day, every day. Shantideva says in verse 2, "What I have to say has all been said before, and I am destitute of learning and of skill with words. I therefore have no thought that this might be of benefit to others. I wrote it only to sustain my understanding." So again, if we don't really do our work, it's hard to be out there for others. It's, when I worked in the schools, the teachers would always talk about the students, the students, the students. And I would always be saying to them, what about you? What about you? What about you? Because as go the teachers, so go the students. As go the leader, so goes the staff, or the followers, or the disciples. So it truly is about how we take care of ourselves, how we are present with ourselves, and how we do our own work. And again, I'm so grateful for our Sangha to help guide that precious journey. Pema says, "The low self-esteem so common in the West rests on fixed ideas of personal inadequacy. Shantideva is committed to not getting trapped in such limiting identities." So again, I just encourage you to think about what fixed ideas you carry with you that you are hopefully shedding like a snake's skin. The snake cannot continue to thrive and grow without shedding that skin. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see a skin laying on a path, but it's a great reminder that we get to do that as well. We get to slough off and let go of that and not beat ourselves up. I woke up this morning going, oh man, I wish I could have done yesterday different. I wish I could have done the day before different. And it was just such a great reminder that we get to begin again. Any thoughts, comments about those verses or your experiences with them? Okay. And I think as we move through this, I'm going to be looking for you to really dig in deep and look at where this shows up, what this is like for you, and as you're comfortable to be able to share that with us, because as we share, we grow in learning. And I think the last one with chapter 1 that I wanted to point out is verse 14 in chapter 1. "Just as by the fires at the end of time, great sins are utterly consumed by bodhicitta. Thus it benefits our boundless, as the wise and loving Lord explained to Siddhana." Just by the fires at the end of time. And so it stood out for me, and Pema writes for verse 14, "The comparison is a great fire that burns up negative tendencies, Ordinarily, we buy into our negative habits, acting them out or turning them against. Either way, we make them stronger. Bodhisattvas practice, quote, in the middle of the fire. This means they enter into the suffering of the world. They stay steady with the fire of their own painful emotions. They neither act them out nor repress them. They are willing to stay on the dot and explore an emotion's ungraspable qualities and fluid energies, and to let the experience link them to the pain and courage of others. So, really, what a great way to think about this. The dot. I mean, that's really what it is, right? In the middle of the fire, to stand on that dot and really pay attention to that, to really note that. Thoughts?
I highlighted that section because it was just so awesome. I love the stay on the dot part too, and I've expressed this in here before, but it's been something that I've been working with a lot lately. Is just being with, noticing, relaxing into. That's been a big part for me. It's just like not just noticing, but noticing what happens in my body, and just, you tense up and you react and you restrict and you defend and whatever, these habits that happen. But if you just relax, like notice the tension in your body and relax the body and breathe into it and be with it. I'm just now starting to notice, it sounds so simple, but it's really not. I mean, it takes a little practice and calibration, and so staying with it and breathing into it, relaxing into it. I'm now finally starting to see the dissolution of those things that I read about and talk about. It's from more of a place of awareness instead of identifying with it, being the awareness that's experiencing it, but not identifying with it as me as much, and seeing it rise and fall and go away.
Great, thanks. Other thoughts or comments? For those of you that have a book, it's page 11 on the Becoming Bodhisattva.
Soma.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, good morning. Good afternoon, I guess it is. I had a question back on verse 14. The idea that great sins are utterly consumed by bodhicitta. And for some reason, this line has really jumped out at me. And I guess I need to reflect on what it's calling up. But one of the first thoughts that I have about it is this making a reference to karma, and is the ability, and as I understand bodhicitta, as it's being discussed here, it's ever present. It's present from the beginning. It's beginningless. It's the basis of who we actually are. If we are able to tap into that, partake of that, live from that place, does that constitute a fire that burns away negative karma that might otherwise take many lifetimes to satisfy?
I really like that interpretation, Jim. I think, again, it's for us to really kind of sit with these verses and mull them over and see what comes up, as you suggested. But I think as we are able, at least my understanding is, we're able to practice our bodhicitta practices, then those sins are grasped and sort of quelched, allowing things to pass over and pass through, as opposed to clinging to whatever it is I said or did or didn't say or do. And that bodhicitta is stepping into this, allowing us to, and the fires, as Pema says, that entering the suffering world, as we enter in and we're able to use the bodhicitta practices as a way of moving through these and not staying stuck in the fires. Do others have some ideas or thoughts about that?
I feel like, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I feel like bodhicitta is the way of being of a bodhisattva. It's the way that the bodhisattva is. And we're growing little bits by bits into that way of being, which is the cultivation and practicing the Dharma so that we can relieve suffering, that it's not something that's, I don't think of it as something that's internal and there. I think it's something that we're working to acquire through the practices. That's just.
Yeah, I think my thing is it's both. That as we develop a strength, as we practice longer and step into this each day, if we go back to the very first page of chapter 1, she describes bodhicitta as a basic human wisdom that can drive away the sorrows of the world. And so if we go over here to verse 14 of that chapter, great sins are utterly consumed by bodhicitta. Can you see how that's possible? Does that make sense, or are we still kind of mulling with this? Bodhi means awake, free from ordinary confused mind, free from the illusion from one another. Citta means heart and mind. According to Shantideva and the Buddha before him, the unbiased mind and good heart of the Buddha hold the key to happiness and peace. And so great sins are utterly consumed by bodhicitta. As that love and that care and that wisdom comes, the sins, certainly for ourselves, are starting to diminish or get lighter or get softer, or however you want to see it.
I was just thinking or feeling as you were describing that for me, it's Jim, for me, it's learning how to see things. Really, so much of my day is please help me to see this differently. Help me to see you differently. How do I see myself with the mind of an awakened one? And to the extent that I do that, I purify now my intentions. As I purify my intentions, my actions become more resolute, more aligned with those intentions. So to purify, continuously purify my intentions, I do feel like I'm purifying my transgressions and the sins of my past, because I'm deepening my awareness in enlightenment, in an open heart, not with fixed beliefs about who you are or who I am. It's almost like rising above the battlefield and seeing things very differently with new eyes. And I'll end with this. One of the things I'm doing to open this seeing is I'm trying to pursue creative paths, so writing and art and music. Not that I'm great at any of those things, that's not the point. But perceptually, it's teaching me to hone my ability to see, to get out of my ordinary seeing, my ordinary mind. I hope that makes some sense.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Other thoughts
Hi,
regarding this?
This is Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Just building on that a little bit, I think with the bodhicitta mind or heart, we recognize sins are the result of causes and conditions and not individual deficiencies. and then recognizing the causes and conditions are the reason why great sins have been occurred, it's much easier to forgive them and let them go, as opposed to holding on and blaming. So it's recognizing causes and conditions are why we do what we do or did.
Yes, yes. Truly, we're learning and growing into the causes and conditions piece of our world. And when things occur or don't occur, how we step in or don't step in, upon reflection, can really give us an opportunity to see, wow, whatever I'm bringing my load, my emotional backpack in, how I can sort some of that out. One of the things I did with kids when I was working in the schools, I would load up a backpack full of bricks, and the bricks had labels on them. And I would put that backpack on them and say, okay, now let's go. And of course, it was very heavy. It's uncomfortable, it hurts, I can't do this. So what would you like me to do? And they said, well, take a brick out, because they knew I had bricks in there. I said, okay. So I'd pull one out, and it was joy. And they said, well, no, not that. And they had seen all the bricks that were out there, all the labels. Well, what else would you put that back into? Another one, anger, or disappointment, or hurt. And then we would talk about that. And we would look at, how does that come up for you, the disappointment? And that refers back to, back then, I certainly didn't use with them causes and conditions, but what brought them to that place of anger? What brought them to that place of joy? And we all carry that backpack full of emotions, of bricks. And so what do we do to reach back and pull out? Or maybe take the pack off and look in there and say, what is in here? And why is it in here now? Just kind of, again, to come back to, and Jim, let me know if you want to have more conversation about this, but Pema talks in verse 14, the comparison is to a great fire that burns up negative tendencies. Ordinarily, we buy into our negative habits, acting them out or turning them again against ourselves. Either way, we make them stronger. And so through bodhicitta, we have an opportunity, and I keep using that word, but I think that's, at least for me, an opportunity to burn some of those up, to get some wisdom with that, so that when it arises again and again and again, that it's not quite so heavy, that the burden isn't so strong. If that makes some sense.
Can I just, one more thing about what she wrote there?
Sure.
She writes, it also means that they stay steady with the fire of their own painful emotions. They
Yes.
neither act them out nor repress them. They are willing to stay on the dot. And that's where, when I go to say, look back on the day each day, I think about the people who on whatever news station it is had risen some anger in me. And then I try to look at it, and then I realize, I have to let go, that, they're where they are because of their causes and conditions. I'm where I am because of my causes and conditions. And then that sort of, those painful emotions, if they were there, they'll go away. So I really like what she wrote there. It also means that they stay steady with their fire, the fire of their own painful emotions. Neither act them out nor repress them.
Thank you, Brian. I'm really glad that you brought that back to our attention. And just one more time, I'm going to read that, because we're human and we're going to carry these pieces. But they enter into the suffering of the world. It also means they stay steady with the fire of their own painful emotions. They neither act them out nor repress them. They are willing to stay on the dot and explore an emotion's ungraspable qualities and fluid energies. And I really like that part of fluid, impermanence. It's going to pass, even if that moment doesn't sure feel like it. Any other comments? I really appreciate us spending some time with this, because as Paniwati said several weeks ago, this is the foundational work. And even if we think, okay, I've got this, it's just such great reminders And as I was looking at preparing for this morning, I just went, wow, there it is. And I haven't been able to take the time or taken the time to really review some of this. And I realized how empty I was and wanting to fill myself back up with this beautiful Dharma. Anything else for chapter 1 that you've been contemplating, sitting with? Okay. So let's move to chapter 2. And some of the verses that I wanted to just bring about again, to have us remember in the last 2 weeks, because it's been 2 weeks since class, where this practice has shown up for you. And one is the offerings of the 3 jewels, the Buddha and the Sangha. Remember, this is preparing the ground. And even we don't have to be coming to the altar or coming into the Dharma hall to really take our refuge. We can do that throughout our day. And it's, maybe it's doing a sticky. I have sticky notes up on my mirrors and at the door. And, as things kind of get churned up, I remind myself of those. But the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And that we can make our mental offerings to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. We can make our mental offerings throughout the day. When you see hurt or sadness, or you feel that within yourself, to offer yourself a moment of pause, a moment of calm, in order to relieve some of that suffering that might be churning up for yourself or for others. Special intention, this is Pema speaking. The special intention of making offerings is to gain the precious attitude of bodhicitta. We do this practice with clear intention of awakening the bodhi heart. For example, when we're feeling inadequate or closed-hearted, we could uplift ourselves with a simple but potent gesture of mentally offering the most pleasing and beautiful things in our lives. Most pleasing things in our life. I'm reminded again, when I was back in my professional life, I was doing a lot of trauma work. In fact, when I was doing the chaplaincy program down at Upaya, the Buddhist chaplaincy program, the focus I had was on trauma and resiliency in education particularly. And one of the things we were learning is how to work with folks who had experienced some trauma. Certainly at the schools I was working at, that was the case with extreme poverty. But one of the things that we did is we worked with them on finding a grounding place that was pleasant, that was safe, that was comfortable. And I think we can all do that. Finding a place that gives you joy. It could be standing out here in the sunshine and listening to the birds and just feeling the nice, cool, refreshing air. Or it could be the golf course, or it could be, walking on the greens or on the tennis court. It could be any place that we go to that joy in the woods, walking is a favorite place of mine. But that, being able to go back, what that does, certainly within the body and the nervous system, is it closes down the nervous system to a place of calm, as does the breath. And so by just pausing and allowing ourselves to go, just imagine that place right now. And it literally shifts the neurological system to a calming place. And it's used, that particular method that I learned was used in huge catastrophic situations that took it over to when there were tsunamis and earthquakes. But also in the schools, I use that regularly with kids. And the more we did it, as with any other practice, the stronger they got. So that when things were really upsetting for them, they would go there themselves. They were able to do that for themselves. And that was just a matter of practice. So we talk about finding that really wonderful place that we can go to get the calm and the beauty and just the joy. And with that can come wisdom. So the mental offerings to ourselves, to our teachers, to others is really a key component to moving us through in this process. Another verse that I reflected on this morning was helpful. It was on page 41. And actually she was writing, Pema was writing verse 32 through 46. But 36 stood out for me. All that I possess and use is like the fleeting vision of a dream. It fades into the realms of memory, and fading will be seen no more. 37, and even in the brief course of this present life, so many friends and foes have passed away, because of whom the evils I have done still lie unbearable before me. 38, as the thought came never to my mind that I too am a brief and passing thing. And so through hatred, lust, and ignorance, I've been the cause of many evils. 39, never halting night or day, my life is slipping by, and nothing that has passed can be regained. And what but death could be my destiny? And so the urgency, at least for me, and I've been using that word with friends that I speak with, that I have opportunities to visit with, about the urgency to really practice this and to take this on and to be with this, to keep moving forward on this path. Pema writes, verse 36 evokes the unsubstantial quality of our lives. It is Shantideva's first reference to the illusory, dreamlike nature of reality. Whenever we feel ourselves getting hooked, just recalling these words can be a powerful support. They can help us cut through emotional entanglements and tune in. Wow, even just that. Pema talks a lot about getting hooked, and it's a great visual for me. Man, I've been hooked. I got hooked. Or someone being able to say to you, you got hooked. Yes, I did. What a gift to be able to notice that. She reminds us through these verses that we die alone. We die alone. I mean, that's it, right? I mean, that's the reality.
Even if the room is full of all
Even
of
if
them.
the room is full of people, we die alone. So he's bringing us back to reality here in these verses. And the fact that we get to change the course from our old karma to what we can pursue in this current life. You're going to die, and when you do, you will take nothing with you but your state of mind. And so how we live in the world day by day, moment by moment, because we don't know when that moment will come that we move out of this current life. I'm just pausing to look if anybody's got other verses that have stood out for you in this second chapter, Preparing the Ground, or that we talked about and that you've been, I know Paniwadi encouraged us to really pay attention. We didn't realize that last Tuesday we wouldn't be here, but that that for the next weeks that stood out for you, that you continually practiced or we're aware of along the way. On page 45, I highlighted in bodhicitta training, we learn to use whatever pain or fear we experience to open our hearts to other people's distress. In this way, our personal misery doesn't close us down. It becomes a stepping stone toward a bigger perspective. So in our process of moving forward, knowing that the end result is going to be, we know not when, death, we can have these chances, these opportunities to step into this path with others and really practice with others, regardless of what they serve up to us, regardless of the causes and the conditions of what present themselves. She says the letting go that we cultivated during our life is happening naturally. This is what we've wanted, and now it's occurring on its own. If we learn to relax with uncertainty and insecurity, then death is a support for joy.
That one in particular was one that I really highlighted in the book. I thought that was very powerful for me.
Thank you, Brian. Can you say a little bit more about how that experience was for you?
It builds off the other one you talked about where she wrote, or I'm sorry, where I think it was the Dalai Lama said, and you mentioned it, you're going to die, and when you do, you will take nothing with you but your state of mind. And that was a couple pages before that, and then this part came in. It also talks about, as you said, but if you learn to relax with uncertainty and insecurity, your death is a joy. And it's like, wow, yeah, I create my state of mind. And if I'm willing to work with this sense of impermanence, then you know what, I can let lots of stuff that I'm dreading of go. And my state of mind can be much more peaceful. But that whole thing about learning to relax with uncertainty and security, it's just, yeah. I can't protect myself from the future. I can prepare for it, but I can't protect myself from it. And I just like that phrase. That's all I guess that's all I can add.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think I remember bringing this up when I read it. I think I probably woke you up the night I ran into this. But it's Pema, and she's saying, this is after 2.46, best possible preparation for dying is to recognize the nature of mind. So that's what we're all trying to do, at least here in this room. She said, in watching people die, I've observed that death can be a strong support for waking up. Everything is naturally falling apart. Our body is falling apart. Our way of perceiving reality is falling apart. Everything we've clung to is dissolving. Key for us in this room and on this Zoom, to me, the letting go that we cultivated during our life is happening now naturally. This is what we've wanted. And now it's occurring by itself, on its own. I just thought that was so, like, oh, wow. Like when I get to a point where this path of letting go, which is kind of one of the ways I see it, gets to where when it's time for my death, to use a term I consider to be the cause of suffering, can't wait, right, for the culmination of this work. So anyways, that was extremely encouraging to me. It was like, wow, yeah, that's a payoff for this. We're preparing for our deaths. Now, if we go out into anywhere and strike up a conversation that, no, you should really just spend your whole life preparing for your death, we're gonna get, cross-eyed looks, and none of that's gonna make any sense. But I just thought that, wow, how worthwhile the work that we do to learn to let go, and that this process of death is really just the sort of culmination of that, if we've been doing it. Otherwise, she said, if we spend our lives searching for outside help, through looking good, shopping, therapy, addictions, and so on, we will look for something solid to hold on to when we die. When we find ourselves seeking help with panic-stricken eyes, we'll discover too late that this habitual response will not help at that time. This is Shanti Deva's sobering message. That was just very powerful to me. The whole thing's green, you can see.
Well, mine's red too, so really, thank you. And thank you, Brian, also. I just think it helps to look at how this folds out for ourselves and where it shows up, as I keep saying. On page 49.
Can I say something?
Oh, sure.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I love death. Because death, we die every time we give up. We're trying to cultivate. We're trying to get rid of all the things that, the habits, the perspectives, the ideas. And every time one of those dies, how joyful. We're dying every day that we practice the Dharma and we get just a half an inch further. We've died to that part of us. Isn't that wonderful? Death to me is joy. It's gone. Or almost gone, or partly gone. Death is letting go.
Absolutely.
And not just
Thank
the final body, I dropped my body. It's all the little stuff that we've got to drop while we're alive. I'm sorry, I'm getting passionate.
No, don't be sorry. I think that's a really great example of our daily existence. And as we do those kinds of deaths, it allows that final death to have a different meaning to us. It allows us to move forward in a way that my guess is if this wasn't for the Dharma, we would be experiencing, and we can see it out there with friends and family who are not experiencing some of this themselves. Wow, such suffering, such challenges that they encounter. Thank you. So we're nearing the end here, and I just want to finish this, well, not finish. I don't know what we'll be doing next week, but I want to look at this pairing with this paragraph. It's on page 49 and it's Pema's from the verse 57. If along a small and ordinary cliff I need to pick my way with special care, what need to speak of the immense crevasse that plunges down unnumbered fathoms deep? For someone that has done a lot of hiking and climbing, that really was, when I think of the crevasses I've encountered, and then that sort of the feelings of, if I misstep, it's a long drop down. Pema writes, the immense crevasse refers to the samsaric mindset of continually seeking comfort and trying to avoid pain. Shantideva asks why, if we're so attentive walking along a small and ordinary cliff, we aren't at least that heedful about the dangerous crevasse of samsara. For endless lifetimes, we've been falling into this crevasse. Let's finally get smart and not fall in anymore. And should we stumble now and then, let's catch ourselves and climb back out. That's the message. That's the message. And so I want to end with today's class with a paragraph the last page of this chapter. Shantideva ends with a summary of the 4 powers of confession and passionate vow to free himself from the causes of sorrow. It is extremely difficult to resist the seduction of habits, even knowing how unsatisfying the end results will be. We persist in the same old patterns which illogically hold out the promise of comfort. To rid ourselves of inevitable suffering, it's crucial to acknowledge on the spot how we repeatedly get hooked. Dzigar Control calls this process developing heartbreak with samsara. Trungpa Rinpoche refers to it as nausea with samsara. Nausea with a tendency to act on unwise impulses over and over again. This is a tricky practice for Westerners. We tend to regard our shortcomings as proof not of our humanity, but of our worthiness. The 4 powers of confession, however, place emphasis on the pragmatic intelligence. We face the facts compassionately and get smart about promoting our best interests. Just invite us to let all that's been said enter into our practice today. All the sharing, all the thoughts and experiences. May you be at peace. May your hearts remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be a source of all healing for all beings. Sadhu. Thank you all for coming in today.
Thank you.
Feel better, Nancy.
Feel better, Nancy.
Feel better, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Be well, Nancy.
Thank you, Jim. Good to see
Please
you.
don't talk anymore.
Oh, yeah.